Welcome back to the Triple Double Watch, guys. We are back to do an MLB video. We're going to talk some All-Star teams, some All-Star snubs. The All-Star team is out, and we're excited for the game. It's coming up probably in a week when we post this. So Ant is going to talk about the NL roster for us and break it down.
Yep. All right. So we're going to start with the starting pitchers. First up's the probably leading Cy Young candidate, Sandy Alcantara from Miami. Then you got Corbin Burns from Milwaukee having another Cy Young caliber year. You got Luis Castillo from the Reds. Max Fried from Atlanta. Tony Gonsolin from the Dodgers. Another Dodger in Clayton Kershaw. And Joe Musgrove from the Padres. So those are some really good names there. Even probably the worst one, Luis Castillo, is still a solid pitcher. So,
and I would imagine Sandy Alcantara will start the game.
I don't think so.
Really?
I think it's going to be. They haven't, but I would assume it's in LA. It's probably going to be Clayton Kershaw.
That's true. I did not think about that. The game is in LA, Dodger Stadium. Yeah. So yeah, they'll probably go Kershaw.
I'm going to guess it's going to be Kershaw versus Otani.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So, anyways, you got those are the starters, and the relievers are David Bednar from Pittsburgh. Edwin Diaz from the Mets, Josh Hader from Milwaukee, our guy Ryan Helsley from St. Louis, and Joe Mantiply, right? Yeah, from Arizona. So that's the only Diamondback. I honestly haven't heard much of him this year, but I haven't heard much of anybody from Arizona this year. So then you go to the catchers, and you got Wilson Contreras from the Cubs, and he's starting at catcher, and Travis d'Arnaud is the reserve from Atlanta. Then you got first base. The starter is Paul Goldschmidt from St. Louis. And then reserves are Pete Alonso from the Mets and C.J. Cron from Colorado. Second base starter, as of now, is Jazz Chisholm from Miami, although he's currently injured, might not make it. And the reserve is Jeff McNeil from the Mets. Third base is starters Manny Machado and the backups Nolan Arenado. That was a heated fan vote competition there to see who would start.
Both very equally deserving.
Yep. And another heated fan vote was between Trey Turner of the Dodgers and Dansby Swanson of Atlanta. Trey Turner will be starting, Dansby the reserve. Then you got the outfielders. Leading vote getter Ronald Acuna, who's for the NL, secured a spot early. He'll be starting in the outfield with Mookie Betts from the Dodgers and Jock Peterson of the Giants. The reserves are Ian Happ of the Cubs, Starling Marte of the Mets, Juan Soto of the Nationals, and Kyle Schwarber of the Phillies. And then Schwarber's teammate Bryce Harper was voted as the DH starter, but obviously will not be playing because he's hurt. So I don't know if the reserve William Contreras will start at DH or if they'll just slide somebody else in.
I did think they said they would start William Contreras.
Which is cool. You'll have both Contreras starting in the All-Star game.
That's first time that's ever happened. So that's definitely monumental. They'll probably do something pre-game to have a little fun with that for sure.
And maybe even if they're both in the lineup batting back-to-back, that'd be
good.
And then the commissioner came out probably a week ago and said that he was going to name 2 legends in the new CBA. It allowed him to name a legend from each league to the All-Star team. So for the NL, they named Albert Pujols. Obviously,
let's go, another Cardinals boy.
Well deserved. So so that's the NL. I think it's a solid team. Hopefully they'll get the dub.
Yeah, they historically bad. I think the AL has won 5 or 6 in a row, and I know the past 20 years has won 15 or 16. Yeah. So the NL needs to right the ship for sure.
So solid squad.
So the AL trying to take another one. Starting pitchers, they got Shane McClanahan from the Tampa Bay Rays, Nestor Cortez from the New York Yankees, Alek Manoah from the Toronto Blue Jays, Framber Valdez from the Houston Astros, Martin Perez from the Texas Rangers, really nice year from him out of nowhere. Paul Blackburn for the Oakland Athletics. Justin Verlander coming off of Tommy John surgery for the Houston Astros. He's been a really good bounce back too. And Garrett Cole from the New York Yankees. And rounding it out is Shohei Ohtani from the Los Angeles Angels.
Likely, I would think, probably going to be named the starter as long as he's not pitching. Which I didn't mention, there's a couple of those starters might not they might not play in the game because they'll probably start Sunday for their teams.
That's
and
true.
They'll be named as they'll be replaced for somebody that will be able to pitch. So probably Garrett Cole is in that boat for the AL.
So for the AL, out of those starting pitchers I mentioned, if you wanted one guy tomorrow to go pitch for you, who would you choose?
For like
the AL starting pitchers.
Okay. I don't know. It's been really good years from McClanahan and Cortez, but you got guys like Cole and Verlander that are proven. Give me Justin Verlander.
I think I was leaning the same way.
Yeah.
I think I'd give me Verlander. If I was wanting to go newer, I'd go Shane McClanahan.
Yep,
He's
same.
been dominant this year. So moving on, the relief pitchers, they named 4 of them. Clay Holmes for the New York Yankees has kind of stepped into the closer role when Chapman's been injured or struggling a bit. Emmanuel Clase for the Cleveland Guardians, and he has been lights out. They put him into any ball game, and that's a close save situation, and he's locking it down for him. Gregory Soto for the Detroit Tigers, and then Jorge Lopez for the Baltimore Orioles. Moving on, we got the lineup now. So the starting catcher is Alejandro Kirk for the Toronto Blue Jays. Absolutely blew away the fan vote. Has had a really, really good season out of nowhere, and looks like he's going to be here to stay for a little while. Backing him up is Jose Trevino for the New York Yankees. And then going on to first base, the starter is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He won the fan vote pretty easily too. Backing him up is Luis Arias for the Minnesota Twins. He also plays some second base, so he'll be a utility infielder guy. But he's had a nice year. He deserved to be on the team for sure. The starting second baseman from the Houston Astros is Jose Altuve. Backing him up is Andres Jimenez for the Cleveland Guardians.
The third base competition was heated.
Yes, absolutely, and both very deserving too. I would have leaned this way. Rafael Devers got the starting from the Boston Red Sox. I would have leaned that way too, but does not take away from Jose Ramirez from the Cleveland Guardians. He's the backup, and you can make a case that they're 2 of the top 4 guys in the AL in general. They're just playing the same position, unfortunately. So, moving on, starting shortstop is Tim Anderson from the Chicago White Sox. Backing him up is Xander Bogaerts from Boston Red Sox.
That right there was an example of that fan vote came down to Tim Anderson and Bo Bichette, and I think Xander Bogaerts is the best of the 3.
Exactly.
So
Bogaerts just wasn't getting much love in the fan vote. Don't know what's up with that necessarily.
Could have had an all Boston left side of the infield.
I know that'd have been something for sure. Moving on to the outfield, the top vote getter was for the entire American League was Aaron Judge.
I think it was the entire MLB.
Yeah, I think so. Yep. So he has been on a tear. He's put the full package together this year. 300 at average with close to 30 home runs now.
He's on pace to go over the Maris 61. So I think he's
definitely going to be a storyline to follow going in the second half of the year. So starting center field will probably be. Well, he's going to be a starting outfielder, so it'll be Mike Trout. And then probably starting in right field or left field will be Giancarlo Stanton.
I was in left.
Yeah, and Judge go to right. The backup outfielders are George Springer from the Toronto Blue Jays, Byron Buxton from the Minnesota Twins, Andrew Benintendi for the Kansas City Royals, which is a big trade target coming up too.
Yep.
I've heard every single team has interest in him. So. Kyle Tucker for the Houston Astros, and Julio Rodriguez, the rookie for Seattle Mariners, who almost has AL Rookie of the Year.
Yeah,
locked up already.
Yeah, I would have, the fan vote, Stanton won, but I think Springer probably deserves to be a starter. I mean, he's had a really good year, but.
Yeah, I thought similar. Stanton probably deserves to be on the team for sure, but I don't think he's been the third best outfielder in AL. I think you could even make a case Buxton and Benintendi have been better this year. But so rounding out the AL lineup, the starting DH is going to be Shohei Ohtani, and backing him up is Yordan Alvarez. This is a case where the fan vote did get a little carried away. Ohtani has had a good year at the plate, but he has not had a Yordan Alvarez year. Alvarez had the best DH year in probably this past decade.
Yeah. And Jordan,
So-
in hindsight, I mean, Jordan wouldn't have started anyway now because he's hurt.
Yeah.
But definitely should have been voted as the starter.
Yep.
Just,
It was close. It was like 52 to 48%, but
But this would be cool. 2 years in a row, Tani might start as the pitcher and
Yep.
DH.
so. And then rounding out the roster, the legacy pick from the commissioner, is Miguel Cabrera, who
Really deserving.
very deserving and like wouldn't be on the roster
But
by his own
actually-
stats, but is actually having a good season.
Yeah.
He's batting around 300. His power numbers are definitely down for Miguel Cabrera, but he's 40 years old at this point. so-
Ironically, was watching the Tigers game today, and they showed his stats with runners in scoring position. He's literally leading the league in average with runners in scoring position.
So he still definitely knows how to get it done. So it'll be fun to see Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols both there. That'll be fun. But moving on now, we're just going to talk about some snubs from each league at various positions that we thought definitely had a deserving case to make it. And that doesn't mean any of these guys that did make it don't deserve it. It's just that's the way it is every year. Somebody has to be left off, and we're going to talk. We're going to give some love to those
This
guys.
is a yearly thing. Who should have made it? And I will mention I did kind of mention it already, but there's some pitchers that'll start Sunday that won't be able to pitch in the All Star Game. They will be named with replacements. So some of these guys that we mentioned will probably be on the team.
Yep.
There's injuries that we've mentioned. Harper and Alvarez will get replaced. And then there's also a fan vote for a final player. So possibly half, maybe, of our snub list
probably
might make the team.
But it's still a pride thing to be named to that original roster for sure. So although some of these guys that we're about to mention will be there, it means something for sure. If you had to predict right now who's going to win the fan vote for the one last player to each team?
I
right?
think so.
Who would you?
I don't know if it's pitchers or not, but if we're going position players, let's say if I had the NL fan vote, without bias, obviously I think Tommy Edman, who's top 3 in WAR in the majors, I think deserves that spot. But it's a fan vote, so I think for the NL, the Dodgers fans might get Freeman or Smith in there. The Mets fans might get Nemo, but if it's a fan vote, I think it will probably come down to a Dodger. But I think Austin Riley's having an amazing year, and Tommy Edman
for sure.
Also, so.
I think if it's fan vote, I think it'll probably be Freddie Freeman. He's very deserving too. For the AL, I would hope it's Ty France, but I don't know how much fan love he is getting. I hope he gets enough because he's had a great year. But since we're mentioning it now, we'll go ahead and swing right into it. Our all-star snubs that we thought.
All right, so we got at catcher. I just mentioned him, Will Smith for the Dodgers. Obviously, he's had a great year. He's had some clutch moments too. He's hitting 257 with 13 homers and 42 RBIs in a loaded Dodgers lineup. I've seen him hitting cleanup for them. So, great year for him. I think he could have easily been. I don't think he would have started, but could have easily been named to this team. So
yeah. So I saw a wild thing too the other day that Will Smith has played around 150 games at Dodger Stadium, and he has 6 walk-off hits. And that maybe doesn't sound like a ton, but it's hard to even have an opportunity to get a walk-off hit.
A lot of people don't even have 6 opportunities.
I wonder how many opportunities does that mean out of is he 6 for 6? Is he 6 of 7 or 8? And regardless, that's clutch hitting at its finest. Yep. So, is that all you had?
Yeah.
Okay. So, AL catcher that we talked about this a bit, that we thought got snubbed was Jonah Heim for the Texas Rangers. Probably a guy a lot of people don't know about. Is he a rookie still technically? Or?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. He's at least newer to the scene. I think he's a second-year guy. But he's a switch hitter catcher, which is just fun off the rip. Start of the year, he was kind of in a platoon system, but his bat has kept him in the lineup now at catcher or DH now at times even.
Mitch Garver's injury has helped him
that too. So. He's got a 2 WAR, which is really good for catcher. 12 home runs, 31 RBIs on the year. He's got an OPS of 796, OPS plus of 126, which is really, really good for a catcher.
Y'all would notice in these snubs that I've put very basic stats and somebody else has gotten into really specific ones.
So yeah, I mean, I love me some OPS. That's my stat. If you guys didn't know, so.
If you don't know, average is irrelevant, but I'm gonna mention it. So.
So anyway, Jonah Heim, great season. Probably won't get named regardless, but we wanted to show him some love. So.
Yep. So that moves us to first baseman, and we've mentioned him, and I think was maybe the biggest snub out of anybody. Ty France of the Mariners. He's hitting over 300 still, even if average is irrelevant. That's pretty impressive.
It is. I just care about on-base percentage. Okay, it's the whole money ball.
He's hitting 306 with 10 homers and 45 RBIs. So, really good year. A lot of people, if you go read any article about snubs from this game, Ty France is in it.
It's on that list, yep.
Like we mentioned with injuries, he might end up being there by the time this video is posted or by the game.
Yep.
He should be there. But right now he's not on the roster, so he's a pretty big snub.
Yeah, so NL first baseman we thought got snubbed. We mentioned him earlier, Freddie Freeman. I think one way or another he's going to find his way on the roster because it's at Dodger Stadium. There's injuries. There's the fan vote. One way or another, I think he'll be there.
The only thing I would think would keep him there not being there is there's already 3 first basemen on the NL roster. So.
That is true, but they wouldn't care to throw one of them at second base in an All-Star game.
Well, Freddie Freeman has experience at third.
Yeah, that too. I just meant at a different position in general. So I think he'll find his way there. He's got a 3 WAR on the season. He's doing what he's done every year with the Braves previously. His numbers are not down by any means. 11 home runs, 54 RBIs. He's batting over 300 at the time.
Oh, okay. Well, that's irrelevant.
What?
Freddie Freeman's average.
Because his average.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I'd please the average. His on-base percentage is 381. That's what I care about. His OPS is 875. OPS plus 142 is off the charts. Definitely all-star worthy just by the numbers. So I think he finds his way there somehow.
All right, so we'll move to second. And we only came up with one name here, but Santiago Espinal from Toronto. He was in the final fan vote, the last 2. And that obviously is skewed because of Canadian vote. But he is having a good year. He's hitting 271 with 6 homers and 37 RBIs. And he's not had anywhere near that production in his career. He's already passed his at-bats from last year. So a really good year. And, I mean, he was a finalist. So if you're going to find anybody at second, I think he's probably the best option. So
yeah, for sure. Blue Jays was a little bit of a question mark at second when they lost Marcus Semien in free agency. You knew they'd find someone, but they didn't know if it'd be a platoon or not. Yeah. But Espinal has stepped into the everyday role for sure, and to even be in an all-star conversation is a huge win for the Blue Jays.
I feel like he's another case of what might keep him away is there's already 3 technical second basemen on the roster for the AL, and as long as none of them get injured, I don't think he would get named. But
probably not.
He's probably the best second baseman not on the roster. So.
Definitely. So moving on, we're going to third baseman now, and we have 2 names here. And the first one we had was Austin Riley, and he had a very slow start to the year. And I was looking up his stats, and I did not realize how much he's picked it up lately. He's got a 3.2 WAR. He's got 23 home runs now, which the last time I checked, it was barely over 10. So I don't know if it's just been that long since I checked, but I just think he's doing that good lately. 56 RBIs, batting 282, 907 OPS, 146 OPS plus, even better than Freddie Freeman's. So Austin Riley has been tearing the ball up lately and has been a key contributor to the huge Braves streak that they had earlier in the season, and they're still hot right now.
29 of their last 37.
Exactly. So Austin Riley has been a key contributor when this team goes the past 2 years now. I think he's another guy that may somehow find his way into this game. I hope so, because out of this whole list we have, he may have the most impressive season now.
Yeah.
After it's all said and done. So.
Yep, for sure. We had another third baseman down. Also in the NL is Brandon Drury from the Reds. Another guy that's having a really good year. He's in 277 with 18 homers and 50 RBIs, which is pretty impressive on a Cincinnati Reds roster.
Yeah, and he was kind of a journeyman before.
Yep. So he's had a really good year, and I don't think he would get in over Riley, but it's another guy that's having a great year and might make it onto the roster.
Yeah, give some Cincinnati Reds love.
Yeah, right now they got Castillo, and I think that's it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if we've mentioned this, but every team gets at least one All-Star, so that's the reasoning for some of these guys being named.
And I was going to say that quick sidetrack. Do you like that in general?
Yeah.
That every team gets one?
You don't want to be the team that has nobody there.
But
I mean, I understand there's people more deserving, but it's an All-Star game, so you want to have representation from every team.
Yeah, that's true. I was kind of like thinking about it and relating it back to NBA, but NBA is much smaller rosters and
somebody on every MLB roster is having an All-Star caliber year every year. So.
Yeah, so I think I like it too. Yeah. So moving on to shortstops, we only came up with one name for both leagues, and we came up with Tommy Edman. Absolutely no bias because he has a 4.2 WAR. At one time was leading the NL in WAR. I don't know if that's still true or not.
If he's not, he's behind his teammates.
Exactly. Now, so you look at his stats, and they don't absolutely wow you, but
he's more of one of those.
He's a defensive guy.
I've seen a comparison to Andrelton Simmons. Andrelton Simmons was leading the league in WAR in like 2012 to 18, but never made an All-Star team because he's a defensive guy, and that just doesn't wow people as much nowadays in these All-Star games. So, yeah, obviously, our bias aside, we feel like he's deserving, but people are not going to look at. People are going to look at his offensive numbers and just not think he is. So
yeah, he's only has 7 home runs, 33 RBIs, batting .257, .699 OPS. His OPS plus is only 102. League average is 100. So he's only barely above league average in OPS plus. But like we watch the games, and the defensive plays he makes is off the charts.
Defense and base running. I would also throw in.
Yeah, the base running for sure too. He's at least at the top of the league in stolen bases. I don't know if he's leading currently, but his defensive plays sometimes is just like you thought that was a base hit for sure, and now he just stole a run from you, and that's just as huge as getting an RBI single at times, and so that's why his WAR is so high, particularly, and so. That doesn't always go into, like you said, all-star voting. The fans don't love that stuff all the time, and it gets overshadowed then when you just look at these stats. But he is having an all-star type season for sure.
I do think if they had listed him as a second baseman in the fan voting, he would have been an easy finalist and might have been a starter.
Yeah.
Because the second baseman in NL just don't have great offensive stats. Even Josh Chisholm's having a nice year, but he's probably about similar to Tommy right now in a lot of stats. So
for sure.
Yeah, definitely think Tommy's deserving. Will he get in? Don't know.
Probably not.
Go out and vote for him on the final fan vote.
Yeah.
All right, so then we'll move to the outfield. We have 4 names, 2 for each league. One for the NL is Brandon Nimmo from the Mets. He's hitting .268 this year with 8 homers and 32 RBIs. I feel like that's another guy that, I mean, we don't watch him every day, but I feel like his defense is probably better than his offense, or at least close. So, another guy I think could get in. Don't know if he will, but he might, and I feel like he would be deserving. So,
yep. Absolutely. So, the other NL guy we had is Brian Reynolds. He had a very slow start to the year, too, but he's picked it up lately, which is good for the Pirates if they consider trading him, too. That might be a storyline. He's only got a 1.8 WAR. In all reality, I don't think he's a snub, but, like, you know, he was the next guy up if there is injuries or anything like that. 15 home runs, 32 RBIs. His OPS is up to 808, 127 OPS plus. So he's definitely having a good year overall, and for how bad his April was, it's been a very good past month. So
yeah, I feel like we said, every team has to have a player, and I feel like David Bednar's had a really good year, but Brian Reynolds could have easily been the Pirates representative.
Absolutely.
All right, so AL outfielder, we had obviously we had 2, but first one was Austin Hayes from Baltimore, and Kendall's gonna like this, but people have been sleeping on a lot of the Orioles lately.
Yeah,
and you've seen what
currently on like a 9-game winning streak.
8 or 9, yeah, I think it's 8 or 9 right now. They're making a run. They're like a game and a half out of the last wild card or something like that. So, Austin Hayes is having a good year for him, .261 with 11 homers and 45 RBIs. His teammate that made it was Jorge Lopez, but I think Austin Hayes is probably just as deserving as him to make this team. Yeah, I mean he could make it with injuries or this final fan vote. Unlikely with the representation the Orioles have been getting, but it's definitely possible, and he's another guy that's deserving to make it if he does.
Yep.
So
absolutely. So the other AL outfielder we had was Taylor Ward for the Los Angeles Angels. So I've kind of deemed my AL team as the Angels. I always liked Mike Trout, and I've now officially been to an Angels game at their stadium. So I'm officially.
It doesn't stop talking about Shohei Ohtani. So.
I'm officially an Angels fan for the AL, but we're not going to talk about their season currently because it's in the dumpster. But Taylor Ward has been having a nice season.
Imagine having the supposed 2 best players in the league and being terrible.
I know. It's actually impressive. I think that's what they're trying to do. But anyway, Taylor Ward has had a really good year. He's slowed down recently, but he still has a 2.5 WAR, 12 home runs, 34 RBIs. Has been in the leadoff spot most of the year. 905 OPS is really good. 155 OPS plus is really, really good. So he's had a nice year. Again, I don't know if it's one of those situations. It's like, who would you take out? Because the AL outfield is absolutely stacked. But nevertheless, he deserves some love for a guy that Joe Madden at the start of the year said was going to be their 4th outfielder. So, good job, Taylor Ward.
Yeah. Hey, I use him in the show all the time. He's got a secondary position of catcher. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Anyways, so moving on, we have one guy at DH for each league. The AL, we had JD Martinez, who I feel like is a yearly quiet candidate for stuff like this. He's hitting .311 with 9 homers and 26 RBIs, which 9 homers and 26 RBIs is not that high for a guy like JD Martinez, but he's in a good Red Sox lineup. Their 3-4-5 has been just killer this year. So they could end up getting all 3 of those guys in. JD could be the replacement for Jordan if they want to go get another DH.
Yep.
So that's very possible. Yeah.
Yeah, so the NLDH we came up with was Josh Bell.
Technically a first baseman.
Yeah, but we'll throw him in at DH. He's had a really nice bounce-back season. There was talk at the beginning of the year they thought he'd be untradeable if they wanted to, and now he's probably going to be a hot trade candidate coming up at the deadline. He'd fit into any lineup. He's got a 3.1 WAR on the season, 12 home runs, 47 RBIs. He's batting over 300. OPS 877, OPS plus 154, which is really good. So he deserves a lot of love too. I don't think he'll find his way onto this roster, but he just quietly kind of has been doing his thing in a bad Nationals lineup.
Yep.
So,
all right. So moving on, we have 6 starting pitchers listed here. First one up is Aaron Noah from the Phillies. He's had a really good year, 3.15 ERA with 120 Ks on a Phillies team that clearly hasn't been giving him enough run support. He's got a 5-6 record, but we'll look past that because win-loss is almost irrelevant nowadays.
Yep.
But yeah, 3.15 with 120 is a really good year. And you got a guy that's also on his team.
Yeah, Zach Wheeler, another starting pitcher for the Phillies, having a really nice year. You look at the numbers, he's probably been even better than Aaron Nola, and
we've been getting to see that personally lately.
Yeah, exactly, and was in Cy Young talk last year, so this is no surprise. He had a rough first couple starts to the year, but
I think that was he had like a injury thing in the spring training.
Yeah, I know. It just never felt like he was in rhythm, and once he got into rhythm, though, he's been dominant. 3.2 WAR, his ERA is all the way down to 2.46. Probably in the last month or two, that's well under 2, which is just insanely dominant. He's up to 104 strikeouts. I think there's a lot of guys on the NL roster he could overtake for sure. So I think it's kind of a crime. He may be the guy on this starting pitcher list that should be in. So I hope he makes it. Yeah.
Will probably be named as a replacement if he's not starting on Sunday.
I hope so.
Somebody is. Yeah. So another guy in their division is Kyle Wright from the Braves, having a breakout season. He's got a 2.97 ERA with 103 strikeouts, which is, I mean, really good for a breakout season he's having. He's in a tough division too. He's got to face the Mets and a stacked Phillies lineup.
Yeah, exactly.
So and solid Marlins team, but he's having a breakout year for the Braves, and he could easily make it and be named as well.
Yeah, Go ahead and give us our last NL pitcher.
Okay. We also had Carlos Rodon from San Francisco, who, if we base it only off the game that we attended, wouldn't
be in the majors.
He might not be.
The game we attended Sunday Night Baseball, he gave up 8 earned or 9 earned runs and only 4 innings.
The night that Albert pitched.
Yeah,
let's go.
Smacked him around. So,
anyways, other than that, he still has a 2.7 ERA.
Exactly.
So,
you take out that game, it's probably like 2.4 or 2.3 something.
I think it might be even lower.
Yeah. So
2.7 ERA with 124 strikeouts, which is more than Noah, and a lower ERA. So I think Rodon's got an even better case than at least Noah, maybe even you mentioned Wheeler. Rodon might have just a better case. So, yeah, that's our. We had 4 NL and 2 AL, so that's the 4 NL.
Yeah, so 2 AL starting pitcher snubs. We thought first one Dylan Cease from the Chicago White Sox. We knew he had good stuff coming into the year, but he has exceeded expectations still, even from that. He's got a 2.3 WAR, 2.45 ERA, which is really, really good, and he has been just missing bats left and right with 133 strikeouts. I didn't check, but that's got to be at the top of the AL at least. Likely. So, really good season from him. I think another guy that will find his way on the roster one way or another. You kind of can't ignore a 2.45 ERA. So, the last AL starting pitcher we had is Kevin Gausman. His WAR is only at 1.6 now, but I don't really think it tells the full story. He's got a 2.86 ERA, 100 strikeouts on the year. He started the year with like 40 strikeouts or so and no walks. He was kind of pushing the what Corbin Burns did last year, but really good season from him. Great signing by the Blue Jays. I hope he gets some love because he's been a leading factor in their success this year.
Yep. And then we got a couple AL relievers that we mentioned here. The first one's the Yankees' Michael King, who I've heard from a lot of people might be named as a replacement, one of the firsts. He's having a really good year in kind of a middle relief spot. 2.33 ERA with 62 strikeouts.
It's a lot for a reliever.
Yeah, a really good amount there. So Michael King definitely I would see on the roster.
Yep. So another guy is Ryan Stanek from the Houston Astros, and not even like the closer for them, which is insane because he has a 0.63 ERA.
Yep.
So and that's not on that small of a sample size. That's on 28 innings, which is a normal amount for a relief pitcher at this point in the season. He's got 31 strikeouts, so he's getting over a strikeout an inning. And he's just been a guy that high leverage situation that's not the ninth inning. They're throwing him in, and he's getting you out of it. So, really good year from him, and he might find his way on the roster one way or another. So.
Yep. So that's our snubs. Obviously, there's some other guys, but this is what we think is the best chances at making the roster still.
Yep.
Like we mentioned, there's going to be a lot of people that won't be playing in the game. They'll be all-stars still. They'll have that on the resume, but. And these guys that get replaced will also have an all-star appearance on their resume, so it'll be pretty cool. So let's here at the end. Let's mention a little prediction of the game.
Yeah.
I'll let you go first, actually.
Alrighty. So I will take the NL, finally getting a W for the first time in a while. I'll go 5-4. I will go some hometown love. Arenado will be in the game off the bench. And he will hit a walk-off hit one way or another to win the game for the NL.
An MVP, huh?
MVP then. Yep.
All right. Well, I'm going to stick to the norm. The AL tends to pull these out. The roster, personally, I think looks better. So, yeah, I think they're going to win at 8-6. And the best player of all time is going to be the MVP, Michael Trout.
There we go.
So, yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend. The All-Star Game is going to be obviously the main show, but Home Run Derby. I'll throw this out there. There was a little bit of news before we started filming that Albert Pujols will be in the Home Run Derby.
Yep, so that'll be fun for sure.
You got Alonso and Acuna also have said they'll be in it.
Alonso trying to three-peat.
Yep. Got a good chance.
Yeah, for sure. Stadium probably fits him well, too.
Yeah. It's going to be a fun weekend, so we'll probably come at you with something after the weekend's over next week sometime. Just recap the events. So look out for that. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Yep. Appreciate it.
Ciao.
Ciao.